Hi, I'm Ken Coleman, and today I'm talking about the Will Eisner Hall of Fame inductions that will be happening at the San Diego Comic Con. I'm not in San Diego, but I thought it would be a good time to mention it. Over the past few years, I've been learning about lesser known comic creators, lesser known illustrators, and animators. People who just aren't whose names don't come up in pop culture around here. So when I was reading Super Gods by Grant Morrison, he was talking about Elizabeth Holloway Marston. Her influence on American comics goes back to the big three golden age DC superheroes, and specifically Wonder Woman. She wasn't the writer, she wasn't the illustrator, but she had such a profound impact on the whole idea of matriarchal feminism in the original comic series during the tenure where William was writing it. She was a big influence on the writing. Their mutual partner, Olive Byrne, who they parented the children with, and Sadie and Olive lived together for a long time after William's death. I'm thinking that what was promoted in early Wonder Woman, what it might have been going on behind the scenes. There are many rumors about the Marstons. I think that prevents Sadie from getting her due when it comes to comics recognition most of the time. I think that I understand that it was huge for a woman to play a big role in Golden Age comics at that time. She was a first-generation immigrant from the Isle of Man, which I can imagine might have been an inspiration of Themyscira and Paradise Island. When just in name, it's got a masculine tone, the Isle of Man. She was also a great academic. She had degrees from 2 of the Seven Sisters schools and BU Law. She had worked with her husband at Harvard, and that's where they met Olive. I think that she, her husband, and Bill Everett, 3 academic types in Golden Age comics, often go underappreciated in fandom and nerddom. They aren't the typical New Yorkers growing up in the tenements. They aren't the 2 boys from Ohio who created Superman. They were established in, the Marstons were established in other fields, in science and universities, before getting into comics. The other person that I'm going to be talking about is Mary Tortle, and you can see her work right here. This is an example of Mary Tortle's Rupert. In this case, there are 5 panels where she's illustrated the story written below. In Britain, it's been continuously created by a succession of artists ever since 1920. And from 1920 to 1935, it was written and illustrated by Rupert's creator, Mary Tortle. She would write narratives that were provided beneath and then illustrate them through a succession of panels. And in my opinion, that counts as comics. Why she isn't in the British Eagle Awards or in the Eisner Awards is beyond me. The Eisner Awards are starting to recognize more international artists and female artists who go against type. And she's not there yet. I'm not sure why. So now I'm going to give a little brief overview of some of the names that have been accepted, some of the names that will be going in as Judge's Choice right now, and the names that SDCC attendees are deciding upon this weekend. So we have non-superhero comic creators like Carl Barks and Robert Crumb. Carl Barks known for his Disney, and Robert Crumb known for underground comics during the age of the Comics Code. Milton Caniff, Winsor McKay, and Al Capp created comic strips and newspapers. Mobius and Frazetta, they are big, huge, they have huge cult followings in geekdom and nerddom. Frazetta more known for his swords and sorcery genre of book covers. Mobius known for psychedelic surrealism. Let's call it that. Very detailed. There's Ditko and Stan Lee and Neil Adams. So many famous names. Jack Kirby. He was one of the original three with Barks, and there are judges' choices, which I'm expecting Tortle and Holloway Marston to eventually come up in. Bill Finger, the writer and co-creator of Batman, who also created so many other DC characters and villains that very well known today. Bill Finger started getting his respect through the Eisner Awards, and just recently got recognized as DC as the co-creator of Batman. Gardner Fox, who was a big name in Silver Age DC, got in on Judge's Choice. So did Hergé. William Moulton Marston, Sadie's husband. Floyd Gottfredson, who wrote a very successful Mickey Mouse comic strip far before Carl Barks. I have some of his books there. Bob Montana, who was the creative force behind Archie Comics. He wasn't credited at the beginning, but we're starting to learn that so much of Riverdale and so many of the characters were based off of his own life and being raised in Haverhill, Massachusetts. René Goscinny and Albert Uderzo, the creators of French comic Asterix, got in through Judge's Choice. And so did Bill Everett, another local Boston area guy from Cambridge. Like the Marstons, he was an academic and not the typical blue-collar creator of comics that we usually think of when we think of the Golden Age. The more that I learned about Everett, one of his ancestors was the founder of my nearby hometown, Dedham. Everett was a co-creator of Daredevil, who's growing all the more famous now with the TV series. And he was a writer and illustrator, the full creator of Namor, the Submariner. You guys may be thinking Namor, sure, he's a very old, timely character. But Namor was the is the oldest superhero that Marvel has in their roster. He was around 5 months before Timely debuted, and is older than the Human Torch android or Captain America. And I was shocked to see that Marvel didn't give him more recognition when Namor reached his 75th anniversary. So, before I end this video, I'm just going to touch upon the big names that will be coming up this year and the inductions. Now, excuse me if I lose focus on my lens. I'm opening up a window that has the list of names. So the judges' choices that will be automatically inducted are Carl Burgos, who lived from 1916 to 1984. He was one of those co-creators of very early Marvel at Timely. He created the Human Torch android. And if you look at the earliest Captain America movie of this current MCU canon, the android can be seen in Howard Stark's lab. I was really hoping for this Human Torch to appear in Agent Carter. If she was to team up with Isaiah Bradley and Namor, and if the Human Torch blueprints had been stolen by Soviet spies, and something leading up to the Cold War and early Cold War, as the Soviet Union creates the initial Crimson Dynamo. That's just a what if now that the Agent Carter's been canceled. But I like that one of these timely artists is finally being recognized. It takes judge's choice. The other judge's choice this year is Tove Jansson, who lived from 1914 to 2001. She was a Finnish cartoonist who created comics called Moomin, featuring this race of hippopotamus-like cartoon characters. And after a while of creating her comics, she created books featuring the characters. So they are automatically coming in. Now, of the nominees, 4 will be chosen by the voters. And I'm reading this from comic/con.org. Linda Barry, Kim Deitch, Rube Goldberg, who many of you will know for his theoretical inventions, Edward Gorey, who is another well-known illustrator and comic artist, Bill Griffith, who created the Zippy comics, Matt Groening, the creator of Simpsons and Futurama, Jack Kamen, Francois Mouly, George Perez, a famous American artist, famous for Teen Titans, Antonio Prohias. And the more I learned about Prohias, the more I respect what he gave to comics. He's the creator of the Mad TV comic series Spy vs. Spy. And he is a Cuban American. When there weren't too much minority figures in comics, there were a few. The creator of there are a few others. Going to check the name of one of them. If any of you have been watching Rip Hunter on Legends of Tomorrow, Ruben Moreira, the character's creator, credited, was creating comics well into the 1920s. He was, I believe, working on Tarzan. He was the Tarzan Sunday strip. And Moreira was born in Puerto Rico and died there, and people like him and Prohias were pioneers and often undervalued for which. Craig Russell is being nominated. Rumiko Takahashi is known for Rama Half. I apologize, I'm not too familiar with many manga titles, so if I mispronounce that. Jacques Tardy, who is a French cartoonist, and Herb Trimpe, who is known as one of the co-creators of The Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner one. So it is too late to induct Elizabeth Holloway Marston on this, the 75th anniversary of Wonder Woman. And I really think that's a shame. I can only hope that in the following years, the judges will get her in at some point. If she can get accepted, if Tortle can get accepted. As I learn about these women, I am wondering why their creations haven't been recognized in the formal comic fandom. The general comic fandom. Alright, well, thank you, and enjoy SDCC. I may stand out as one of the few people who are looking more for the awards and recognition of iconic heroes in comic creation, and not so much for movie news or updates. Well, thank you.